Welcome to Sara Gonzales Unfiltered. We got a lot to get into. Did anything happen today? I don't know. Was there anything noteworthy that happened? Was it like just another mark in just the crash of our civilization as we know it here in America, just our descent into the banana republic? Why, yes, it did. I am joined today by Jason Buttrill, chief researcher of the Glenn Beck program, along with Matt Kibbe, of course, BlazeTV host of Kibbe on Liberty and president of Free the People. And well, so I'm going to be honest with you guys. We started taping the show and we were talking about the Trump trial, and then the verdict came in. And we had to retape this because we have just found out that Donald Trump was found guilty in his falsifying business records case on all 34 counts. And we sat here at this table before the verdict was read, and I thought to myself, actually, Matt and I were both saying, I think he's going to be found innocent. Like I am thinking that truth and justice will actually prevail in a case that is so important to the country that even people from New York that hate Donald Trump's guts can understand the ramifications of weaponizing the judicial system against a current president's top political opposition. Like you have to have some faith in humanity enough to believe that even people who hated him would understand how this can be used in the future and how detrimental to the country this is. And my faith has been squandered today. And it's honestly, I'm not like, I don't obsess over Donald Trump, but the ramifications of this type of thing happening in this country, in America, where you are supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, and you hear the facts and the merit of this case, and you find out that there was none, and you want to talk about the hoops that these prosecutors had to jump through to even have try this case as a felony, right? You had to come up with a misdemeanor of falsifying business records, and then you had to create the felony, which was all of these things that we didn't even quite know because the prosecution never actually told you what the second crime was to rise to the level of a felony. They never said it. They never alleged anything specific. They said it could have been one of three things. You can pick whichever one fits your fancy, and then you can find him guilty. And somehow our judicial system has been weaponized and bastardized to the point that you can have absolutely no freaking evidence for your case. And yet if you try the person in the right place with a jury that is already prejudiced against them, truth doesn't matter. And this is a very sad day for the country. I'm going to try really hard not to get emotional because, again, I'm not a Donald Trump cultist, but like if you can't see this and understand that this will have far-reaching effects for a very long time when it comes to the weaponization of the judicial system, you're crazy.
Well, it escalates our politics, right? So it's been this way ever since Trump started running for office, where we keep scaling up and we keep using more and more unethical and dangerous precedents to destroy the other guy.
Yeah.
And I would think from here on out, this is the new rules of the game. Yeah. And I don't know how we get to a functional electoral system if you can just go after your opponent in a favorable jurisdiction.
Right.
It seems insane. It seems like Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela. He does this. Yeah. I didn't think we did this.
Well, now we do.
I've seen this case described by several legal analysts as the weakest case in the past 60 plus years that they had analyzed. That's how bad this was. It should have been a misdemeanor. Hillary Clinton, something very similar that she did. She just got a fine. The campaign got a fine. Mm-hmm. No one really talked about it. A small blurb. You do not go after the former president of the United States in the middle of a campaign in an election year. On something like this. It's absolutely ridiculous. I knew right when we saw that the verdict came in, I was 80% sure that he was going to be convicted. And from I guess the past 48 hours or so, I'd seen people saying that the best case scenario with this jury in that location, the best case was a hung jury. That's what they were looking at. Even though the case has been called the worst case in 60 plus years. You laid everything out in the open. This is insane. It's absolutely stupid, but this is where we are. This is where we are, and I don't think that it's going to get any better. If there's any, I mean, we've looked at the classified documents case. That also looks kind of ridiculous, but there's no predictions you can even be made on that now.
Yeah.
There is no blindfold on Lady Liberty. There just isn't. It's who pisses us off, who is a threat to our side, and we're going to send the full weight of the government, including the justice system, after them. That's where we are. I mean, it's ridiculous. I'm trying to think in my mind, like right now, because every single time they have gone after Trump, legally, using lawfare, he has benefited from it. So I can only see this benefiting him more. And now, how do you handle sentencing? So I'm sure there's there's going to be an appeal process. They're going to go through all that. But right now, what do you do in sentencing? If you put him behind bars, completely unprecedented, he would have to have a security detail inside prison. And plus, the first thing that the campaign should do is go up to that little window where he's talking on the phone, through the glass, and take a photo. That wins you the election, I think, right there. I think that seals the deal for the election. They cannot allow that to happen. So what do you do? Do you give him house arrest? Well, then it would be 24/7, basically Trump TV from Mar-a-Lago for the next, 6 months or however long they would give him house arrest, where he can just do this long rally, basically, and win the election. So what do you do? What did you gain from this besides destroying a country?
Well, I mean, here's what I can speculate based off of what they've already done, right? The judge has already, he required Donald Trump to attend every single day of this trial. Why? To keep him from campaigning, right? He has he missed his wife's birthday. He missed all sorts of stuff because this judge said, no, you have to be here every single day that this is going on.
What did that do for them?
Well, clearly they
hurt them.
But they don't understand that. They're so tone deaf. They don't think that way. They just think if we could get Donald Trump off the campaign trail, whether it be behind bars or what have you, that if we can prevent him from being on the campaign trail, somehow we'll prevent him from becoming elected. And then, of course, you have the people who say, well, I can't vote for a convicted felon.
You know what?
Well, when the judicial system is weaponized against the guy, what the hell does it even matter? Why does it matter that he's a felon? He didn't do anything wrong. That's the fact. You can call him whatever you want. There has been no evidence to show that he did anything wrong. And by the way, honestly, even if there was, I really don't care if my president misclassified a business document. I don't care. I don't care about that. I really don't. And so it's just, I do think that they do want him behind bars. I think that they have wanted that from the get-go.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, do that at your own peril because you hand him the election at that point. And I think it's even more sinister than that. This is meant to embarrass,
Yes.
to intimidate, and destroy if you stand for something counter to what they stand for.
Yeah.
That's what this is all about. Take a look at the Mar-a-Lago raid.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they went through his wife's bedroom, then turned around and rifled through his son's bedroom, who is a minor. This is meant to embarrass, intimidate. That's what this is all about. And to anybody else that's planning to stand against what they stand for, this is what you're going to get. That's what this is all about.
Well, ask the pro-life protesters who have had the same things.
Right.
They have had raids. They've tried to cooperate with the DOJ and the FBI, and they have talked to them through attorneys and said, we will work with you. And the FBI said, no, thanks. We'd rather traumatize your family by raiding your house at gunpoint. So it's like, if you don't think that if it can happen to someone like Donald Trump, a former president who is currently running against the regime, if you don't think that it can happen to you, too late. It already is.
We're using the word lawfare. I don't feel like that captures what's going on here. And I don't know what the right word is, but I can just, again, to repeat myself, the escalation of these kinds of tactics, because I suspect that the future Republican Party is going to say, hold my beer. Yeah. If these are the rules,
Glad you said
we're
that.
going to do that because it, and again, like if you really care about democracy, we say this as a reverent term, and we weaponize the judicial system like this. Nobody trusts that justice will ever prevail. Do they even appreciate what they're doing here? Are they just going to burn it down?
Yeah. So sentencing will be July 11th. So now we have all of that time to wait to see what the sentence will be. But I'm not holding out hope that it's going to be, I don't know, lenient, because again, this is the same judge who has had it out for Donald Trump from the start. He has given him an unconstitutional gag order, preventing him from complaining about the fact that this is a witch hunt. And all the times that Donald Trump has said witch hunt, this is the one where I'm like, no one can argue that this is not a witch hunt at this point. And so this is the same judge who prevented him from, exercising his First Amendment right to even speak about this case, about the judge, about the unfairness. He's not allowed to do that, according to this judge. This judge, again, gave all of these very confusing, ambiguous rules. You don't have to give a unanimous decision now all of a sudden, because he was stretching the word unanimous to mean, well, you could think that he may have committed this second crime or this second crime or this second crime. You can pick one. Honestly, you can pick one. So I hear Trump is now outside the courtroom. Let's watch that.
It's a rigged trial, a disgrace.
We have sound on the floor.
They wouldn't give us a venue change. We were at 5% or 6% in this district, in this area. This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. But the real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here. You have a Soros-backed DA and the whole thing. We didn't do a thing wrong. I'm a very innocent man, and it's okay. I'm fighting for our country. I'm fighting for our Constitution. Our whole country is being rigged right now. This was done by the Biden administration in order to wound or hurt an opponent, a political opponent. And I think it's just a disgrace. And we'll keep fighting. We'll fight till the end, and we'll win, because our country's gone to hell. We don't have the same country anymore. We have a divided mess. We're a nation in decline, serious decline. Millions and millions of people pouring into our country right now, from prisons and from mental institutions, terrorists, and they're taking over our country. We have a country that's in big trouble. But this was a rigged decision right from day one, with a conflicted judge who should have never been allowed to try this case, never. And we will fight for our Constitution. This is long from over. Thank you very much.
Why should voters vote for
I am rendered speechless.
To Jason's point, I think Trump uses this to his advantage. He just...
that made me want to fight for the guy. I'm about to cry just listening to that.
He just made his pitch.
Yeah.
And it was just reinforced by what this judge and jury have done to him, and I think he wins because of this.
I think this hands him the election. I absolutely do. There are so many people right now that would not have been on his side before, but have also been screwed by the government or by the judicial system. And this goes all classes, lower, middle, upper, all minorities, white people, black people, everyone has been screwed. They see that he's being screwed, and they see a little bit of what has happened to them now and Donald Trump. I think this is a colossal screw up on their end. But when you mentioned what happens next, this is completely uncharted territory. What does happen next when Republicans get in power? What have you unleashed? What are they going to do next? Because there's a lot of people out there on the right that are saying it's time for extra constitutional things to start happening. And this gets scary. Something has been unleashed right now. I don't know what's going to happen or if it can be reined in or fixed. I don't really know. I don't even know the solutions right now.
Well, the problem is when you are playing a game with an opponent who is not playing by the rules. Look, I'm not calling for anything, but what I'm saying is point to me a game that you can win where you are playing by the rules and your opponent is not, and all bets are off. You don't win a game that way. So maybe, look, obviously they're going to appeal. Maybe that's where this wrong is righted. But if it's not, I don't know how else you course correct.
Yeah.
I don't know, because for all the talk that, remember Donald Trump campaigned in 2016 on lock her up. And he was going to lock Hillary up, and he made this big production out of it. And then afterwards he said, well, I said that, but we don't do that here in this country. Mm-hmm. No. Yes, we do. And if we don't get our country back and get this man in the White House, who the hell else are they going to do this to? Because they've shown they don't care who you are. You could be the biggest name in this country. They will do it to you. And they've shown that. All right, we've got to go to break. I want to remind you guys, the next segment you're going to see, we did tape earlier. So if things sound a little bit wonky, it's because we taped this before the verdict was reached. And we will, of course, have more coverage of this on tomorrow's show on Friday. We'll be right back. There was a new explosive allegation that I came across earlier today that was, oh no, Donald Trump said the N-word. And I feel like we lived through this before the last election, that this was like a thing that people were claiming and nobody had any proof. And now another person yet again is claiming that. So this time, let me give you the details here. It's a former producer for The Apprentice, Bill Pruitt, claims in a new piece for Slate magazine that Donald Trump used the N-word during the show's filming. Now, they say this was recorded on camera, but conveniently, no one has a video. Don't know where it is. Nobody can find it. We don't have any video, but just trust them, okay? It was recorded on camera, and he allegedly used the word to describe Kwame Jackson, a black finalist on the first season of the show in 2004. Now, I'm going to read you this discussion that they claim happened. Again, we haven't seen any proof of it. The discussion included showrunner Jay Beanstalk, Trump employee Carolyn Kepker, and other producers, including Pruitt. And the conversation apparently was focused on who would win the show's first season. So here's how they claim that it went down, okay? I think Kwame would be a great addition to the organization, Kepker says to Trump, who winces while his head bobs around in reaction to what he is hearing and clearly resisting. Why didn't he fire her? Trump asks, referring to Omarosa. It's a reasonable question given that this is the first time we've ever been in this situation. None of this is something we expected. That's not his job, Beanstalk says to Trump. That's yours. Trump's head continues to bob. I don't think he knew he had the ability to do that, Kepker says. Trump winces again. Yeah, he says to no one in particular, but I mean, would America buy a N-word winning? Kepker's pale skin goes bright red. I turn my gaze toward Trump. He continues to wince. He is serious, and he is adamant about not hiring Jackson. Now, Pruitt was one of 4 producers involved in the first 2 seasons of Apprentice, which, by the way, for those wondering, he did sign an NDA. He signed a non-disclosure agreement with a potential fine of $5 million, which he claims expired this year. Now, look. If there's a video that surfaces of Donald Trump saying the N-word and being offensive, we can cross that bridge when we come to it. But as far as I'm concerned, it just seems interesting that kudos to this guy for not being an anonymous source, because usually it's an anonymous source says that Trump hates veterans and Trump spoke terribly of veterans. And, anonymous source says that Trump hates this special interest group. And it's just like, okay, guys, I find it interesting that it's coming across right now while he's going through this trial and he has 91 indictments against him. I don't know. I just find it strange that if he was so racist, there were a lot of black people who rapped about him back in the day. That's all I'm saying. It would be news to all of them that he was this giant racist because they were all rapping about how cool he was. And now all of a sudden we're supposed to believe that he is super duper racist.
I read you guys ever go on Reddit when you want to see spoilers from movies or whatever, or the next sequel of the next Star Wars movie, and it's like everything the fans want to see or hear about, and it's completely not believable at all. But whatever. And this is like a anti-Trump fanboy. That's what it felt like in a Reddit forum. Like, wouldn't it be, just follow me through here. He was, sitting around a table, and come on, man. How many years ago was this supposed to be?
This was 2004.
How come every one of these, either indictments or rumors about Trump are 7+ years old?
Right.
And they're all timed to come out at certain points. It came out while the jury was deliberating? What a coincidence. That's crazy. Yeah. So maybe, hopefully, while all the jurors are sitting around, doing their thing or at the hotel later tonight, they're getting a message pop up on their phone, through Apple News or whatever. Trump said the N-word. Come on, man. This is just such bullcrap. I am so sick of it. And the problem, and what sucks is, even if Trump wins, it's not going to end. This stuff's not going to end. It's going to be another 4 years of this crap, day after day after day.
Wow, that's depressing.
Yeah.
I was going to say not Reddit, but this felt like one of those housewife romance books.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It reads that way. So
50 Shades of Trump.
He said the N-word with his bare chest just out in the open.
But I think that my lesson from this is that polling must show in Democratic headquarters that Biden is struggling, even though he insists that you can't be black unless you vote for him.
Right.
That perhaps he's having trouble with black voters.
Yeah.
That's my takeaway.
Well, I mean, we're seeing that. And, we played a clip from CNN yesterday of a CNN, I don't know who it was. It was like one of the minor league hosts. And she was asking one of the Biden campaign spokesmen who happened to be black. She basically said, so are we on the same page that if you don't raise your poll numbers with black voters and minority voters, that there's no way that you win this again? And he was like, yeah, so we are working very hard to, okay, great. Control says that they have it. Let's play that.
Do you agree, though, if you don't improve your numbers, your chances to winning the White House again are shot?
Yeah, what I'm telling you is that this campaign is doing the work to win black voters and all voters who are going to decide the pathway to 270 electoral votes in November.
Like when you're the Democrat Party and you have CNN, like, so can we both agree that if you don't raise your poll numbers, you're screwed? That's not looking good.
It would have been awesome if he had said, yeah, we're kind of effed.
Yeah. Let me just put it out there bluntly.
Yeah.
Maybe it was not a good campaign strategy for the left to just focus on crazy single white chicks. I'm just saying.
Right.
Like they've locked them down pretty hardcore, but maybe they might need to branch out a little bit more.
Crazy single white chicks who have a lot of cats and are also very fond of killing their babies, apparently, because that's like what they are flocking to the polls.
The new left.
Yeah, to vote for. But what's so frustrating is hearing, the Biden campaign came out and posted a statement saying, oh my gosh, Trump used the N-word. And so now they're able to use that as ammunition. But I'm thinking, Matt, to your point, I don't see that working because the reason, presumably, that they are so scared about the black vote, which they should be, by the way, is because everyone in America is suffering under Joe Biden. Black voters, Hispanic voters, white voters, we all go to the grocery store and see how much more it costs to buy the groceries that we were buying 4 years ago that cost half as much or less. We're seeing how much more it costs when we go to the gas pump and fill up our gas tanks. We're seeing the abysmal failures in, the withdrawal of Afghanistan. And even if you're not paying attention to foreign conflict, you got to know how much money your taxes are going to fund wars overseas. So it's I think that maybe it will just take all of us just feeling the pain of living under this regime. And I do use that word on purpose for everyone, including minorities, to wake up. I was saying this yesterday that it's in sales, they use a tactic when you're trying to close the deal of making them feel the pain is what they call it. And once you make this person, the decision maker, feel the pain, they will be more likely to allow you to close the deal. And for me, it's just yeah, minorities are feeling the pain right now. And that's why they would be more inclined to be Donald Trump might tweet mean things, but my life was markedly better under his leadership than where I'm at right now.
I'm old enough to remember James Carville saying it's the economy, stupid.
Yeah.
And it is just fundamentally true. If you can't buy the groceries for your family that you used to buy, if you're working harder, if your money's worth less, it doesn't matter. They're desperate. They're going to throw all this stuff at the wall and see what happens. Right. But it couldn't possibly matter to a family that's feeling economic pain.
Right. Exactly. Well, and then add on top of that, the border, which is one of the other top issues for voters. And the black people in Chicago would like a word. The black people in New York City would like a word because in some of those places, their schools have been shut down. Their kids can't go to school because they're housing illegal immigrants. So it's affecting everyone, all of these issues. And some might say in particular, the black voters this time around.
Yeah, I think it's, we've talked about it before, but just, I think we've come to that pivot point, or I think we're approaching it, where a lot of minority voters, not just black, Hispanic, all across the board, are looking at Democrat policies. Go back to the 1960s. And they're like, everything they promised us, like this is how they were showing us that they had love for us, is all a bunch of crap. It's all a bunch of crap. The only thing it has done is destroyed our families. It's it's made us dependent on the state. They do not give a crap about us. And the only way they give a crap about us is continue to like put that little bait out on the stick and say, no, look, we got you. And things are getting worse and worse and worse.
Right.
It's something Trump's really good at is telling people that are taken for granted. Those guys don't care about you. The Democratic Party doesn't give a damn about you. And it's credible because they've been used for a long time. And now all these policies are visceral. Like you could talk about theoretical economics, you could talk about inflation in the abstract, but people are feeling it now. And any sort of rhetoric, any sort of like, no, look over here, I don't think it works.
You know what? Sorry. You know what I think is very important, and this is going to sound really crazy, but what's currently happening in Argentina right now? I think that's one of the most fascinating experiments going on in a place that's usually not very libertarian. But you actually have one of those guys who is the president right now, Milei, and he's doing these things like he's just coming out and saying, like, yeah, I'm just going to get rid of the Fed. Excuse me? Like, there's not going to be a state bank. He's just saying it. I would love to say that, but any politician that says that's not going to get elected, probably. But he's just doing all these things. He's slashing government programs, getting rid of alphabet agencies, all these things, and he's just doing it. Yeah. So I mean, it looks pretty promising so far. But I think that using that as a model and help that to break a lot of these like very radical leftist, ideologies and policies that are being pushed in developed countries like the United States and the rest of Europe. Maybe we can just start getting rid of that crap.
Right.
Maybe I have hope, but it's fascinating to watch.
Aren't you an optimist?
I know, right?
That's
I know.
so cute.
That's kind of weird. I'm usually not, though.
Yeah. Okay, so while we're on the topic of libertarian, Matt, do you still identify? Is that a correct identification? You are a libertarian.
I am a libertarian.
Okay.
I've always been a libertarian, and I will always be a libertarian despite whatever other libertarians do.
Wait, so
that's why
big L libertarian or little L?
Well, that's why. Yeah, so that's why I'm asking, because earlier in the week we talked about the new libertarian presidential candidate, Chase Oliver, who when I think of a libertarian, I think of someone like you. I definitely don't think of a presidential candidate who is okay with mask mandates and vaccine mandates for businesses and drag queen story time hour for kids and, cross-sex hormones for minors, irreversible. Like the list goes on. And I'm just like, how in the hell did this happen?
So there's libertarians, like the rest of America, we're fighting with each other. It's kind of a cultural divide. It's almost like a cultural identity thing. It's not really a policy thing in most cases. We have conservative libertarians. We have libertine libertarians. But how it happened, and I have been involved in this party. There was a time a couple years ago when Justin Amash, very successful Republican congressman, but very libertarian, left and went to the Libertarian Party. He was considered a potential shoo-in to be the nominee. And then Dave Smith comes in, the tremendous comedian, goes on Rogan all the time, a great explainer of libertarian policies. He's sort of in the conservative libertarian wing of the party. He sucked up all the oxygen, but then at the last minute he decided not to run. So we ended up with a bunch of activists running for
This was not the plan.
This was not the plan.
Okay.
And I think for any small party, you need someone of stature and a following, and maybe it's Ron Paul, maybe it's RFK Jr., maybe it's Donald Trump, but these guys had tremendous stature, which allowed them to sort of take over their whatever the different parties, but same thing. If we don't even know who this person is, and nobody will, I don't see what the point is of doing this.
Well, you'll appreciate this in the spirit that it's intended, but I read that and I was just like, that is the most libertarian thing that they've ever done was pick that guy. So, all right, let's go ahead and take a quick break. We'll be back with more, but we want to thank our sponsor this segment, Preborn. So Preborn, I love working with them. It's very simple what they do, okay? They have a ministry where they empower young expectant mothers in crisis to actually choose life instead of aborting their baby, and they've rescued hundreds of thousands of babies' lives through ultrasound ultrasound. And so here's how they do it. They've got these clinics that are typically they're like very close to Planned Parenthoods. And so, these women are told lies. They're told they can't do it by themselves. They're told it's too expensive. And when they come to a preborn clinic, they are told the truth. They are given an ultrasound. They see the baby on the screen. They hear their baby's heartbeat. And in that moment, you guys know if you're parents, in that moment, it changes you. And you're like, holy cow, this is real and it's happening. And this is my baby. And oftentimes she's like twice as likely to choose life. Now they offer these ultrasounds for free, but they are $28. $28 is the cost of an ultrasound. So how many babies' lives can we save together? You can donate securely by going to preborn.com/Sarah. That is preborn.com/Sarah. The FAA confirmed it is now investigating another close call between two aircrafts at Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport yesterday. So around 10:30 a.m., they said an air traffic controller canceled the takeoff clearance for an American Airlines flight because another aircraft was cleared to land on an intersecting runway. So there's a video going around that if you watch, it's like the AA flight is going like this. And then this one comes and the AA flight has to slam on its brakes, apparently going at like 110 miles per hour, had to slam on its brakes so that they didn't collide. And this, of course, comes about, a month after the FAA announced it was looking into another close call involving JetBlue and Southwest aircrafts that also occurred at that very same airport. Now, I'll say this. Apparently, Mike Whitaker took over the head of the agency in October 2023, and he says he's looking into concerns that air traffic controllers are not getting enough sleep. However, I would also like to just bring up that there is a lawsuit right now going through the courts that claims that the agency is discriminating against air traffic controller applicants on the basis of race. So apparently, they added a question on their job questionnaire rewarding applicants for doing poorly on tests to get more African-American air traffic controller applicants. That is a lawsuit that is currently going through the courts. So, you just have to wonder. But I personally was already scared of flying before all of these near collisions and emergency incidents and emergency landings and like parts of the plane, the door flying off mid-flight. And I'm just terrified, and I just wanted to talk about it because I'm just really scared. I'm really scared to set foot on a plane now because of all these incidents.
Well, for sure. The problem is the FAA. The problem is that there is an FAA in existence. It should not exist at all. And this story is so ironic because the FAA handles all of the air traffic control. It's under them. The reason that happened is because there was another almost the exact same story, but they actually did collide. And I think it was like the late 1950s at the Grand Canyon. And I think it was tragic. It was like 188 people died or 200 people died or something like that, whatever the capacity for the plane was. So the FAA just took it over from there. And that's always when government grows. They'll take a tragedy and then they'll seize power. And that's what's happening. Yeah. And I mean, right now, if you would have had private organizations that oversaw, whether that's Boeing planes or whether it was air traffic control or whatever, pick anything else that a government agency oversees, eventually they're going to drive themselves to perfection because they have to. Otherwise, they're going to lose business.
Right.
What we have in our government system now is it's growing exponentially, more and more power, taking over more and more responsibility from other things. And you're going to see crap like this. It's not going to get any better just because the government says, I'm going to look into this issue. Shut up. Like you have been over the past 50 plus years?
Yeah.
No, nothing has gotten better since the moment you seize power.
And now to compound that, Matt, to what you're absolutely right. I mean, anytime the government gets involved and creates an agency, things get markedly worse, which I'm sure to the libertarian at the table is like, yes, that's what I've been saying for many years now. But I mean, when you add a compounding factor of now, the FAA is involved in DEI. Boeing and all of the airlines are involved in, hiring based on DEI. I mean, I'm going to play a clip for you. I want to get your thoughts on this FAA. And then I want to play a clip for you of like, our vice president was a DEI hire. Like nothing that touches DEI anything is going to be good. And that's on top of the fact that, to Jason's point, it's already, if it's a big government agency, we're screwed.
Well, welcome to Libertarian Dork Story Hour.
Yes,
Because I'm gonna make sure that you never fly again because I'm gonna pile on to what Jason said. You have the regulatory agency that caused the problem investigating itself.
Great point.
They haven't updated their software in decades.
Yeah.
They still use paper. They're understaffed, over budget. And the Trump administration tried, this was not the first time, but every normal country in the world, like real countries, they don't have the government do this function. They have like a public-private corporation, or what Trump was trying to do was create a nonprofit where there's more accountability and there's more market pressure to actually deliver the goods. So yeah, it's as bad as you think it is, and add DEI on top of that, it's a perfect storm of stupid.
Yeah. I mean, can you guys think of one DEI hire that we've seen from this administration that has been swell?
Do you remember the, I don't know if she was a guy or a lady, who was stealing luggage?
Oh, yeah.
She was in charge. She was in charge of the nuclear codes. No problem.
Right. That's totally fine.
That was my favorite.
Yeah, just a crazy person. Gosh, I wish I remember. It was like Sam, started with a B. Brenton.
Yeah, something like that.
Yes, yeah. So I want to play this clip here, speaking of DEI. So during a campaign speech yesterday, it just kind of sounded like Kamala Harris was a DEI hire. Watch.
To me, the values of diversity, equality, inclusion are literally, and that's not kidding, the core strengths of America. That's why I'm proud to have the most diverse administration in history. It taps into the full talents of our country. And it starts at the top with the Vice President.
I feel like he's a diversity hire.
The geriatric.
The mentally challenged.
Yeah. Which, by the way, the kind of tying these together, the FAA, I believe, is the agency that we talked about a couple months ago that they said that they were all inclusive in hiring mentally challenged people and, trans people and all of this. You're just like, I don't want the mentally challenged people handling the aircrafts. Like, I don't want it to be the pilot. I don't want it to be the air traffic controller. I don't want mentally challenged people to have anything to do with whether I live or die in this giant metal tube up very high in the sky. But I mean,
the vice president, sure.
Right.
I mean, if there's one position, corporate or government, where I don't think it even matters, it would be the U.S. vice president.
Unless your president seemed like he was going to just
that's true.
Right.
One trip down the stairs
Right.
to heaven.
In this case, it's a pretty damn important job.
Yeah, in this case, we're literally like, every time Joe Biden comes up to speak, we're like, is he going to die? Is he going to collapse? Like, I don't even say that jokingly. Just genuinely, every time I'm like, they're going to get it on camera.
Please don't die. Please don't die.
It's just like, oh God. But yeah, I mean, and you have to wonder, like myself, I am speaking as someone who is 2% sub-Saharan African. And on top of that, I am apparently a POC. But I'm like, I would feel very offended if someone said you got your position based off of your skin color, your heritage, your ethnicity. And it just doesn't seem to bother these people at all. I don't know. I mean, I wonder what the average minority thinks about that. Because for me, I'm like, that's very offensive. Like, I would be very offended if someone said, Sarah, you only got your job here at Blaze. You only have a show because they needed a POC.
Yeah.
That's offensive to me, and they seem to embrace it.
They actually reinforce this stereotype, and I can't imagine what it would be like to work your ass off to get to a position where you were succeeding, and somebody in the office is saying, you didn't earn that.
Yeah.
It's infuriating.
It is. It's very, I mean, like, I can't imagine how offended I would be. Of course, probably someone has said that to me before, but all right, let's take a quick break, and then when we come back, I want to talk, Matt, about the Coverup when we return. So we've gone through a lot of different emotions today in this particular show. And now I want to make sure that we talk, Matt, about your new documentary that people can find on blazetv.com about Anthony Fauci called The Coverup. So tell us about it.
So since we're feeling this way, I want to black pill everybody and tell you all that it's far worse than
You
we
thought it was bad. It's worse than that. You're welcome.
Yeah. I've been obsessed about lockdowns and the government response to lockdowns almost since March of 2020 when I first started writing about it. And it had just got worse and worse for me, and the things didn't line up. So I've gone down this rabbit hole, and I've come to the determination that getting the bad actors exposed and locked up and following the entire chain of command above Fauci. Like, everyone thinks that Fauci is the mastermind. And I remember asking Rand Paul when I conceived of this series, The Cover-Up, well, who's Fauci's boss? Who is pulling the strings as you go through this shadowy network of things? And this series is designed to be an investigative series. I don't want to even pretend that I know all the answers, but I want to follow the breadcrumbs by talking to the smartest people I know. So the first episode, the one featured on Blaze right now, is Jay Bhattacharya, and he's the doctor that signed the Great Barrington Declaration. People don't know the rest of his story. He's an epidemiologist that first questioned whether or not the science behind the virus was what they said it was. He questioned the death numbers and said, I don't think so. And the entire world came down on him like a ton of bricks in a way that is inexplicable unless you understand the power structure and the financial interests and the origins of this whole thing. And it's Jay that first turned me on to this idea that this was not really a public health response. This was a national security, biosecurity, intelligence community response, which was very authoritarian, very top-down, all of that. And now we know why. Right. Because they had something to cover up.
Right.
I think all the breadcrumbs are going to prove that our government was financing this dangerous research, all in the name of biosecurity. We're going to come up with all of these scenarios, and somehow we ended up doing it in China.
Yeah. What could possibly go wrong there?
What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, I mean, so I want to encourage everyone to go watch it before Monday. It's Monday, right? That Dr. Fauci is testifying before the House Committee on Oversight and Accountability. And people need to, like, I talk about COVID still a lot on my show. In fact, it was Chris Cuomo who just went out and did a whole, segment on with Patrick Bet-David, like, oh, well, it turns out this vaccine isn't great and isn't what we thought it was and isn't all these things. And I'm just like, you don't get to tell me that you don't get to talk about people, not being allowed to share truth, because you were one of the ones who was spreading all of these lies, who wasn't questioning anything when you should have been, because you're supposed to be the real journalist at the table.
How many segments did you see with him and Don Lemon where they talked about
shaming people who did not get vaccinated, shaming people in society, or out of society rather, who didn't get vaccinated. And so, you hear these people and I'm like, no, you know what? We're going to talk about this, and it's my turn to shame you, because I don't want anyone to ever forget what these people did to us, what Dr. Fauci lied about, what he knew and pretended he didn't when he was flip-flopping on masks and all sorts of things. And these people need to be held to account. And I think that the only way that we are going to make sure that happens is by reminding people that these people actually did this. Because, again, we're talking about Donald Trump could be imprisoned, right? And that's terrible. And that could be like, I hate to say country ending, but like kind of country ending to Matt's point about, like, is this Venezuela or is this America? I don't know. So I think people have a tendency to move to the next important thing, and they forget what we actually allowed to do to us, what we actually allowed them to do to us. Not us, we didn't allow it, but like the general population. And so I just think that it's so important that people be reminded of what these people actually did and for the most part got away with.
And most importantly, even like the chips are starting to fall, and Fauci is now revealed as lying in front of Rand Paul while he's accusing Rand Paul of being a liar. Right. But the problem is, the reason we have to do this, and this is something that Rand tells me in the next episode, they're still doing it.
Yep.
They haven't stopped. If anything, they're doubling down with this pandemic treaty and all of these wild things they're doing. The mad science experiment goes on, and they don't seem to care that millions of people died because of a crazy science experiment that they used our money to fund.
Right. Jason, do you remember, what was it, February of 2020? I mean, very, very early on, and you and I sat right over there on my old set, and we talked about how, they're saying that this is from bat soup or something, but that seems kind of strange when the Wuhan Institute of Virology is right down the street.
Yeah, something that couldn't be more obvious or common sense. You know, they're like the place where the largest was the largest like storage point for coronaviruses in the world is you could throw a baseball, you know, and hit it from where they say the outbreak happened. Right. And they're like, oh, I don't know. Where'd it come from? Well,
it definitely wasn't this place.
It's a conundrum.
Check here.
Like, come on. It couldn't be more obvious. It came from the freaking Wuhan place. It's ridiculous. And I'm still dumbfounded to this day how there's not an official congressional commission on it. They love to do these things.
So Rand Paul has finally gotten the Democratic chairman of the Senate Government Oversight Committee to start an investigation, but he's literally receiving documents back that are completely redacted. Not a single word on it. So I think where there's smoke, there's fire, and I think we keep digging because this cover-up goes much deeper than even us very cynical people that question government. I mean, I'm shocked at how deep this goes. But again, like if we don't translate this into things that real people can understand, just imagine what happens when somebody discovers that they didn't get to say goodbye to their grandfather in the hospital. Just imagine like they lost their job. They got triple vax. They did everything they were supposed to do. And it turns out that the whole thing was a lie. Yeah. That's why they're so afraid.
Right. Exactly right. Well, and by the way, it's like, here, it's all redacted, but don't worry, nothing to see here. Everything's on the up and up. Don't dig any further. All right. So make sure that you check that out. It is available now on Blaze TV. You can go to FauciCoverup.com/Sarah and use code FauciLied to get $30 off of your annual subscription to Blaze TV. Make sure that you check it out. And great work, Matt.
Thank you.
All right. We'll be right back. Well, it has been a blast having you while you're here in town. Sorry for the torrential flooding.
I was not promised chaos today, by the way.
It's like,
we deliver.
Matt Kibbe comes into town and we're like, we're going to give you floods. We're going to give you power outages. We're going to give you Donald Trump being found guilty. Welcome to Blaze TV HQ.
Everything's bigger in Texas, I guess.
So make sure that you are following Matt. You can check out his program again on Blaze TV. Make sure that you follow him on social media as well. And, make sure you're following this clown too. Jason Buttrill. My mom is going to give me a hard time because she hates it when I ever give Jason a hard time. She's like, you be nice to him. I love Jason.
Thanks, Mom number 2.
So somebody has to stand up for you.
I have a feeling I'm going to need to gather my thoughts and get back with you tomorrow.